Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning, everybody. I am Jay Kumar, Assistant Professor in Environmental Science at Geetham University, Bengaluru. Today, we are going to discuss about the 7th module of Environmental Studies. At the outset, I thank Dr. Balaji of JNU and DTH Swayamprabha MHRD New Delhi for permitting me to deliver this lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the human population growth, which is considered to be or identified as one of the major factors creating a major impact on the environment, and how health and welfare are related with the human population. That is what we are going to discuss. Now, coming to the population growth, what do we understand by the term population? What is the present status of the world population, and where do our nation India stands? And what are the reasons listed for the humongous population growth? And in fact, what are the problems associated with the growth of the population? This is what we are going to discuss in today's lecture. Now, if you look onto population growth, if you look onto the definition, it means that it increase in the number of humans or individuals in a population of a country. To study this population, the term called demography, it is a social science which gives a statistical study of the human populations. Globally, all over the earth, the population is found to be 83 million annually. So this is what the growth amounts to, 83 million annually in 2019-20. By around, this is the data we are giving by March 2020. And if you just look on to the human population from 1800 through the census data, you find the population curve or the growth curve is gradually increasing or having a steep increase, and it is expected that 2050 or 2100 it can reach up to 15.6 billion. From 1800 to 2018 it has raised somewhere to 7.8 billion, and it is expected to reach somewhere around 11.2 billion by 2100. So that is what the thing, and the higher population forecast is somewhere around 15.6 billion. If you just look onto the densely populated countries, we are quite aware of the fact China stands first, second comes India, third comes United States. So because of the conducive environment, a good population growth is there. Another thing, if you just look onto the population status of our nation, it is 1.3 billion as of Tuesday on March 31st, 2020, given by the Worldometer about the population, Indian population. And as per the mid-year, according to the UN data, it is around 1.3 billion. So the Indian population is equivalent to somewhere around 17.7% of the total global population or the whole world population, and it ranks second in the list of countries. The question here is, why there is a humongous growth, a very high growth? We can say even it has a population explosion. That is the question it always ponders in. In fact, before going to that, we will look on to some of the interesting facts. Then we will analyze what are the reasons for the population growth. The population density is 464 per square kilometer. For 1 square kilometer, the number of people present is around 464. Imagine. So 1202 people are there per square meter. So imagine it is completely crowded. And the total land area is, the livable land area is around 29 lakhs 73,190 kilometers square. and 35% of the population of our India lives in an urban environment. So all comforts is being given. The median age is 28.4 years. So it is the central age. Below 28.4 also equal number of population is there. Above 28.4 also more number of people are there. What does that indicate? 28.4 years. The median age in India indicates that India is a very potential population. It is the working population, more amount of knowledge and other things are there. So 28.4 is somewhat a matured level of population in education and workforce. So that is the reason why India can become a super nation in future. Now if you quickly look onto the statistical analysis, you find the largest cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru. In fact, they are all the commercial cities where the economic movement is more. So that way if you just look on the top three cities are Mumbai, Delhi and Bengaluru. And if you just look onto the life expectancy from birth to death, what could be the average age for both the sexes? It is found to be 70.4. You should understand a point. Of course, people are also dying, but the major group of population live up to 69 to 70 years. That is an interesting note to be understood. Point number one, why it is so? Because of the medical availability, facilities or other thing, awareness and emergency treatment, all these things are successfully implemented in India. Another thing, if you just look on, males live up to 69.2 years, females 71.8 years in the whole globe. In fact, if you just look onto the bar graph, the life expectancy has increased. It has increased up to somewhere around 68 or 70. So what does this indicate? Males, of course, because of their exposure to the environment, work stress and other thing, you could find a minimum discount of 1 year, and females live 1 year better. Maybe it is a good thing. Probably they have got the better adaptive strategies to undergo the stress. So that is a point to be noted. It means that the life expectancy of people in India has reached to a somewhat a stabilized stage. It is somewhere around 69. Now, you find a population variation across the countries. In the sense, in some countries you find more population, in some countries or in some continent you find less. Very particularly Asian continent, 3.7 per billion people live, and it occupies for the 1/5 of the global population, Asian continent, where India and China are located. So it means that number of people occupying the land, the population density, you find a simple unbalanced distribution of people. At some places you find more, some places it is less. So that is also found in India. You find the population to be more in Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai in comparing to Pune or Lucknow. So why this variation is happening? That is a question. The simple straightforward answer you will give here is, sir, they are all commercialized cities, or rather they are the better urban cities. You find employment status, employment opportunities, and the living status is also to an extent better. Comfort zones, that's what in simple terms you say. But is that only the answer? We have to. Well, if you just look on to the population variation, this variation is happening at the village level or at the district level, or the variation is seen with the state and as a whole at the national level. Between one country and other country, the population number is varying, and it is very more obvious with the continents. So we found the Asian continent to contain the highest population because India and China are present in the Asian continent. So you find 1/5 of the world population is there from the Asian continent, and China alone has got 1.28 billion. Further, the Indian subcontinent has 1.3 billion people in India, and Pakistan is around 1.5 billion. So you find the data to be more, and you find less population in comparison with other countries, particularly the Maldives. Uh, Now the question comes, why this population variation has to happen? The distribution of the population is based on the extent on the quality of land. First thing, if the land provides adequate opportunity for agriculture so that there will be no disturbance with the food, and as well as employment opportunities should be more. Another thing, the population density, that is number of people living in a unit area also varies widely. So the quality of the land, the distribution of the resources, very particularly the water resources, accounts a lot for the congregation of the people. That too, even historically, we find our civilization started near the rivers, Indus Valley civilization. So it started near the river bed or other thing. So water was not a problem. Another thing, if you just look on Europe, Western Europe are the place where you find the people to be more densely populated, or more people are found in that area. Very particularly the river valleys of China, northeastern USA. So it is very clear these factors, land, water availability and the population density, accounts for the population variation. Another thing is, whenever the population variation has to happen, there should be some underlying factors encouraging the people to settle at a particular area. First thing, it should be a good land, flat, undulating terrain. It should be uniform so that their locomotion or transportation should not be a problem. And it should not be a disaster prone region. Very particularly, it should not be subjected to earthquakes or floods or cyclones. Another thing is, there should be more amount of renewable sources. Very particularly, it should have wind, rain, sunlight, everything should be present. Another thing, there should be a good suitable climate for a wide range of crops. So they could able to cultivate the crops, improve the agricultural pattern, and could support the people. Another point is very particularly cash crops. So there should be a more or less an equitable climate should be available, and that should be suitable for the cultivation of cash crops like your sugar cane. Another thing, that area should provide a chance, or it should have the possibility of urbanization, very particularly expansion of roads, railways or other modes of transportation should be there. If these underlying factors are to be understood, then that leads to one sort of population, one angle of population variation among the continents. Another thing, if you find there is a humongous population growth, we call it as a population explosion. Why this population explosion is happening? Question number one. So what are the reasons for it? So first thing is medical advances. Comparing to the earlier thing, now we have got better medical facilities to fight very many more diseases. So even if any casualty happens because of an accident, there are about 80 to 90% chances to revive the individual who happen to encounter with an accident. To that extent, medical advances are more. Another thing is immunization rates. People have understood the science and technology, so they should be in a position to combat the new diseases. Of course, even corona also people are trying to fight. So with the existing medical facilities and other thing, many of the people could able to recover from it. So as a result, you will find lower mortality rates. Another thing is, there is a good agricultural productivity. There is a good production of fertilizers, pesticides. So the pest population is kept under control. More amount of fertilizers are being added to enhance the growth. Hybrid varieties are available. As a result, the green revolution also paved a way for a good amount of produce, thereby to manage the demand of the population. Another thing is, there is a lack of awareness, but of course it's a point to be debated. Poor contraceptive use and poverty. Many of the people don't use contraceptives, so it leads to pregnancies, and there may be an increase in the population. That too, people who are having less education or less social awareness of the population troubles or the problems associated with the population. Another thing they cite child labor, fertility, treatment, immigration. Of course, these aspects are applicable in the case of Africa or some other countries. In a country like India, in fact, the poor contraceptive use could be to an extent we can take for a logical argument, but lower mortality rates, medical advances are there, and that is one of the reasons. The environment is conducive, good agricultural produce is there, so that could be able to manage the demand of the population. Of course, there are variations, no doubt about it. That is the reason for increase in the population. To an extent, we can take about the migration of people from other countries, refugees from other countries due to very many reasons. As a whole, if you just look onto the globe, the increase in population could be due to these factors. Well, what is the impact on the environment? What are the problems associated because of the increase in population? First thing, lack of potable water or drinking water. So they get less amount of water, and that is being aggravated through deforestation, drought, which we have seen. Second thing, lower life expectancy, very particularly in the underdeveloped countries like African continents or other thing, where low immunization rates and more prevalence of the infectious disease, malnutrition. And another thing is extinction of very many plants or other thing to suffice the need of the people are there. So there is still people are fearing that extinction process is going on, very particularly in many of the plants. Resource consumption, you could find an uneven, unequal distribution of the resources and also unequal consumption of the resources. Developed countries consume more resources than the developing or the underdeveloped countries. Another thing is, you go for an intensive farming, increased intensive farming, it is a double-edged sword. One side you are trying to suffice the need of the population, on the other side we are decreasing the quality of the land, and also the land-based pesticide associated problems also come into the picture. Thereby the land quality also deteriorated. Over a period of time, the land could not be used for any purpose, and sometimes it leads to desertification process. Another thing, faster climate change. Of course, we have dealt about the climate change, and we found that it is responsible due to the natural, of course, anthropogenic factors. Anthropogenic factors accelerate, increase, very particularly through industrial consumption and transport. So there is a faster climate change. Ultimately, it leads to the uneven distribution of the rainfall, and there is no proper precipitation in a particular area. The area experiences drought. The soil loses its moisture condition. You could not able to cultivate crops anymore. So this is what the impact of the population due to very particularly about the heavy population growth on the environment. Now coming to, because of the impact, how we can maintain health. Health. This is given by WHO. Health means, are you having a proper physical state, complete physical state? Do you have a proper mental balance? And importantly, whether you have got a good social well-being and not merely absence of the disease or infirmity. It is not considered to be a health. You may be a diseased person, you can quickly recover. You should be physically fit, mentally and social well-being. Are you behaving properly in the environment? Are you aware of every moment? Do you know your body functions properly? What to eat, what not to eat? Do we have that awareness over the environment? All these things make us a social well-being. And if you just look on, we are the highly neurologically evolved organisms in the earth. So we have to define health in the perspective of physical, mental, and how do we behave in the society. Are we ecocentric? Whether our behavior is proper towards the environment. Is this what? Are we giving a comfort and ease to all the people around it? Whether our presence is liked. So all these things constitute health. Very particularly, mental and social well-being are being addressed these days. We have to improve such features so that we become a complete human being, because we have got abundance and potential. We have not realized our potential to full make it our energy to function full. So that is one aspect. Of course, these days yoga, meditation are being prescribed or advised to people to keep a sound health, very particularly mental health as well as physical health. Of course, to an extent, physical health is being these days improved. So we could able to get vaccination, drugs whenever we have a disease or an injury. We have been treated by the doctors. Clinically, we have been addressed. So that alone will not constitute health. It should include both mental and social well-being. Another thing, whenever you are just looking onto the human health, three important determinants. Heredity. If we are getting a disease through the heredity, whether it is transcended through our genes from our parents or forefathers. So genetically inherited diseases can be addressed. People are making an enormous amount of research on it. Next thing, welfare. Welfare services, in the sense, totally taking into socio-economic conditions. Some people might be poor, some people might be rich. There is a disturbance in the society that a socio-economic conditions variations do prevail in the environment. How best your role is there to improve your own fellow human being. That is what called welfare services, and government is investing enough money, funds and everything. The whole world is working to improve the socio-economic conditions of the human. Lot of government plans are there to support the children education, to support the people to take care of their health, whatever it might be. In comparing with the other countries, India made a stable work towards fighting corona, giving you continuous awareness messages through the best possible media means, paper, social media, whatever it might be. Another thing, they all insist on a health and a family lifestyle. Family, it could be a simple nuclear family. Family gives a good relationship. They may be having these troubles of exchanging words, whatever it might be, but a healthy and family lifestyle. First, are you taking a healthy food? Whether your mental and behavior, social well-being behavior with your family and your family behavior towards the outside, is it proper? So that is again considered as an important determinant for human health. In addition to that, it is again influenced by very many factors, particularly nutritional, whether you are taking a nutritional food. For example, are you taking vegetables in your diet daily, regularly? Do you take greens at least once in 2 days? Are you taking a nutritious food, proteinaceous food, avoiding all the junks? So again this question, first nutrition. Second thing, biological. Biological, chemical or psychological factors. Biological, yes, microorganisms can invade us. Chemical injuries can happen. Very particularly psychological factors. Today people are trying to address many of the psychological issues involved with the humans. Particularly fear, unaware of very many things, security. So all these things, and people say that you should have love, compassion towards the nature, so that your mind becomes free. Are you engaged properly? So if any changes happens in any of these features, nutritional, biological, chemical or psychological factors, then it is called as disease. So how to overcome the disease, let it be physical or mental, it is all in our hands. How we maintain a human health by maintaining our physical as well as mental social well-being, it is all in our hands. Now, if you just look onto the causative agents of disease, a few causative agents, particularly infectious organisms, bacteria, fungi, virus, particularly worms, tapeworm, due to the consumption of pork or any other thing, it can release tapeworms. In the case of chemicals, most of our food varieties contain lot of persistent organic pollutants, particularly pesticides, DDT, and metals. So how we could able to combat them, how we are aware to understand their problem and come out of it. Noise, as we can say that it cannot be visually looked like air, water and soil. It is sensed and it goes finally empty in the air, but it creates an impact and goes. Radiations, nuclear reactive materials, diet, very particularly our nutrition and lifestyle. Are we taking a nutritious lifestyle? Are we giving importance only to the junk food? Before taking a food, are we aware of its complete constitution? Are we taking a vegetable rich food, fiber rich food, whether it contains all the essential vital amines, proteins? Are we taking a proper balanced food or simply a bland carbohydrate consumption? If all these things have been looked on, then the whole health is addressed. See, population might be there. We require a healthy population. And that too, the median age in India is 28 years. So it means that that population can work in full swing with its full potential and make the nation to grow high. Another important point is environmental habitation. Whether the sanitary facilities located around the house, whether you are having a good breathing air, whether you are taking a cup of water, whether the water is potable, is it a boiled cool water? Because of drinking the water, whether your thirst could be quenched, whether it has a free flow in your stomach, whether it can be giving you some sort of replenishment, or by consuming that water, whether you are getting any waterborne disease, cold or other thing. So if you are aware of each and every aspect of the causative agent of disease, you will be putting an attention and alerting your family members to keep a caution and work towards the better health. Now coming to the question, what do you mean by a family welfare? Family means you are living as a social unit. So it means that welfare means, are you promoting the well-being of the family members? Are you supporting the children's health? Are your parents or grandparents or other thing are being given adequate proper lifestyle so that their life could be balanced without the disease, or even if they have disease, whether they are balanced in such state. So if the family is taken care at all dimensions, social, their behavior, economical, money, to sustain them, and environmental, the surrounding, all these things being taken care, it is called as family welfare. So we have got a national health mission so that the whole nation health is kept in a proper way, as well as their welfare is being taken. A potential family unit who can work properly, who has got a proper nutritious lifestyle without any disease, well mental behavior and social well-being, is called as a family. And from each family, those units congregate together to form a healthy population. Now, India, in fact, launched this national welfare program in the 1951 with the objective of reducing the birth rate. In fact, after independence, we found that the population is steeply increasing, but the requirements, food requirements, job opportunities, everything is required. So people thought that how best we can stabilize the birth rate to an extent that we can stabilize the population, we can make a healthy population consistent with the requirement of the national economy. That is what the thing. So you find an inverted triangle, red triangle, it is a triangle, red triangle, stating that we two, ours too. So if a family contains more than 2 children, and the family is 4 people, the income is also an important issue. The children have to be given nutritious food, given a proper environment to grow, given proper education, and they should be mentored to become a good fellow citizen of the country. So this all constitutes the family welfare. So the parents take care. Of course, we should thank our parents have taken care enough. We have been vaccinated. So that is the reason why many of the children are now, we can say that India is totally devoid of polio. So that way, enough care has been taken care by our parents and we have grown to an extent. So that is a point to be noted. The family welfare is an important issue. If the family welfare is addressed properly, then the whole nation is having a healthy population well addressed. Now, very particularly, planning of births and the total welfare of the family is the main motto of family welfare. So in 1977, it was called as Family Welfare Program. Family Planning Program was redesignated as family welfare program. So India was the first nation. It was very cautious, having an awareness to implement the program at a government level. So every government hospitals, social workers were involved to carry the message to nook and corner of India. So the main idea is to reduce the population and to prevent the unplanned pregnancies. So distribution of contraceptive devices, and 100% assistance is given by the central government, and it is implemented through the state government. So the concept is education. First, give a good education, the awareness level will improve. Nutrition. So you should be physically fit, a child. Health and employment. If overall health and well-being is there, he becomes a proper citizen. If employment is given, it will be well addressed. In addition to that, there are disturbances in the gender. So how far women's welfare rights are being managed? It is being handled through very many yojanas given by the central government and the state government of every state. And another thing is shelter. Do you have an adequate shelter? Whether every citizen is giving a safe drinking water, whether pipes are laid, at least a common pipe is there to cater that local street or whatever the colony, and it creates awareness to the people to avoid pregnancy or to plan the pregnancy, the distance between the first child and the second child in the terms of years. Minimum 2.5 year gap is given so that the mother will be also prepared for the next child. So the nutritional disturbance will not be there. The age balance also will be kept into a proper shape. So promoting the use of contraceptive devices, and in the case of sterilization for the women if they have more than 2 or 3 child, so that you can minimize the birth rate and distribute the resources to have a sustainable environment. That is the main concept of environmental studies or the thing, to have a sustainable environment. Another thing, age of marriage. So you can find that in India 18 is the age where you become a major and you have got the right to vote. And improving the quality of the health of the children, encouraging for the breastfeeding in the case of young children, in the infants, improving the literacy rate of the children, and other thing. What better incentives we can give? Can we give them some sort of self-employment opportunities? What are the mass media? All these things have been taken care by the Ministry of Health, Government of India. So as a whole, if you just look on population growth is happening at a very high manner, humongous number. Population means number of people living in a per unit area. In the globe, the population is getting varied. China stands first and India stands second. United States stands third in the total human population. The reasons are very clear: because of the good medical advances, well settling issues, good proper care and attention given on the agriculture, sufficing the need, make the population to grow in India. And as a result, because of the growth, we do have problems. We have problems with the water, land, and the food resource consumption and disturbance in the biodiversity. As a result, global climate change is happening. To combat the impact, we should understand what is health and how health and welfare can go join in together at a family to become a proper citizen to India. So our India has got a lot of plans, and it is being implemented at the central and the state level to manage the birth rate, give a proper health style and nutritious health style, give them education, give them a physical and a mental balance, make them a proper social well-being, human to work at his full potential, and to behave as a proper Indian citizen. So that is being taken care at the central and the state level of each state. So it is our responsibility. We behave as proper humans, proper Indian citizens, and serve our nation and conserve our environment, at least by planting a tree. So that is the take home message we have got. So we should be feeling happy to be in India and serve our nation. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am Jay Kumar, Assistant Professor in Environmental Science at Geetham University, Bengaluru campus. Today, we are going to present the Module 7 of Environmental Studies, which speaks on the resettlement and rehabilitation issues. At the outset, I thank Dr. Balaji and DTH Swayamprabha MHRD New Delhi for permitting me to present this lecture. In today's discussion, we will be looking onto the resettlement and rehabilitation issues and the concerns with a case study on Tehri Dam. Well, what are the issues and concerns? Whenever we speak on developmental projects, they are basically planned to bring benefits and enhance the societal needs. For example, if you are constructing a hydroelectric power project, initially the hydroelectric power project involves a construction of dam across a river. So the river water which is getting wasted is streamlined by constructing a dam. By constructing a dam, the water is stored during the lean period, that is during the summer. The water could be released to the local agricultural area for irrigation and it can be used for drinking. In addition to that, the stored water at the dam has got some societal benefits like fisheries, and in turn it can generate electricity which could be in a position to light the dark or whatever the villages which are present. So that is the idea behind this developmental projects. On the other hand, in the event of planning the developmental projects, there happens the over-exploitation of natural resources and degradation of the environment. And in the sense, degradation of the environment in the sense, it leads to clearing of the forests, and the people who are dependent, very particularly the native people or the tribal people who are poor and underprivileged people, are displaced. So they undergo enormous economic and psychological distress when they are forced to leave the place and made to settle at one point. Their socio-economic and ecological base of the local community, very particularly the tribal population, is disturbed. So these are the prime issues and concerns of a resettlement issue. Well, the displacement of people happen due to construction of dams. It could be due to the mining projects. The example is the Jharia coal field mine at Jharia, creation of national parks, marking an area, thereby the people are not allowed to enter into that particular zone for collecting the fuel or fodder for their cattle, and it disturbs their basic livelihood, or they are forced to move to some place. So that is called as your resettlement issue. Now the best example is Tehri Dam. The Tehri Dam is the highest dam in India. It is a multi-purpose dam. It is a rock and earth-fill embankment dam. You can see the picture, and it is constructed on the dam Bhagirathi river near the Tehri in Uttarakhand. Now the Tehri Dam is a reservoir which can hold water, and that water could be used for municipal water supply and also for generating 1000 megawatts of electricity, very particularly the hydroelectricity, which can cater the needs of about 200 to 300 nearby surrounding villages. Now, what happened was, when they wanted to construct a dam, a large area has to be cleared and the native people are forced to go out of the region, nevertheless of compensation being given. The protest by the environmental organization and the local people of the region, very particularly the environmental activist, a popular activist, Sundarlal Bahuguna, he led the anti-Tehri Dam movement from 1980s to 2004. The local town inhabitants who are present down the dam are forced to move out of the zone. In the sense they are asked to resettle at some other place. So, and they said the displacement of the town inhabitants and the ecosystem is also found to weak. And people said that it is there in the central Himalayan seismic gap, a major geologic fault zone. So by constructing the dam or other thing, it might induce some sort of reservoir induced seismicity. That was the issue being created. And the dam proponents claimed that if an earthquake happens at a 8.4 magnitude, the dam cannot withstand, and with a magnitude of 8.45 or 8.5, a catastrophe can happen. It can totally damage the dam, it can break, and subsequently the water will flow with adequate force and submerge the numerous towns, very particularly the local villages which are present down the stream, where the populations are accounted for nearly a 500,000. So this is again the concern being raised. So ultimately, somewhere around 100,000 people from the area have been asked or forced to relocate, which led to a lot of legal battles over the resettlement rights. Where should we go and colonize? If I asked to go away from the native place, I was not well educated, I am not well prepared. Where can I go and settle? How I can be rehabilitated because I am not socially or having an awareness, I am socially equipped or well prepared. So this was the argument being said, and protests were written in the form of slogans in the house. So when you just look onto the rehabilitation issue, we know that the basic human right given by the Indian Constitution is right to housing. You can buy a land and settle at any place. But unfortunately, many of these displacements have resulted in the land acquisition, and the Land Acquisition Act 1984 also can serve notice to people to vacate their lands if it is an earthquake prone zone or any developmental projects are being constructed over the area, very particularly when the government is planning to improve the societal needs. So if they are asked to vacate, they will be given adequate cash compensation when they are forced to give out the land, and adequate money will be given in the act. But the problem here is many of the tribals are displaced. As a result, this displacement has led to many of the tribal people who are not educated. They have lost their land, home, jobs, and a lot of food insecurity happened. Whatever the problem that raised is they could not access to the common property like drinking water. In the event of movement, their immunity was not prepared enough to meet down the local urbanized environment. So that led to increased morbidity, diseases, and also social isolation. So breaking up of family, cultures, the women were the worst affected because they don't have a job. They have to wander around with their children. So, and many people claim that they were not given cash or land compensation. Enough rehabilitation issues happened. Another thing, the tribals, the problem is they are not familiar with the market policies and trends. So the land acquisition laws also ignore the communal ownership. In fact, now in the last lecture we have seen that the tribal rights are there to protect them. And many of their socio-cultural events, folk songs, their cultural functions, dances, marriages, their own set of beliefs, even if they are resettled, it will be more of an individual based resettlement. The communal resettlement is to an extent ignored because of the breakup of the families. So in a nutshell, the resettlement and rehabilitation issues is something like a cloth, fine silk cloth fall on a torn region. So it has to be beautifully lifted. The poor people has to be given adequate compensation, and of course our Indian acts provide them. Only thing is the lack of awareness. So these are the issues and concerns about the resettlement and rehabilitation. If the native people are locally displaced in the event of displacement due to the projects, very particularly due to mining or construction of dams or creation of national parks. Thank you. Good morning everybody. I am Jay Kumar, Assistant Professor in Environmental Science at Geetham University, Bengaluru campus. Today I am presenting the 7th module of the Environmental Studies course. At the outset, I thank Dr. B.S. Balaji, JNU Delhi and DTH Swayamprabha, MHRD New Delhi for permitting me to present this lecture on disaster management. In today's presentation, we will just look on how the 4 major disasters, particularly floods, earthquake, cyclones and landslides could be managed. First of all, we should understand what is a disaster, how the disaster is caused. So, what early warning signals you can get from the disaster, and finally, how you can forecast the disaster and what preparedness and mitigatory measures you can implement so that you can minimize the happening of the disaster. That is the main idea of disaster management. Now, looking the origin, disaster is a word derived from a Middle French word called désastre. It's a word derived from Middle French, désastre. In Greek, disaster is referred as bad star. Actually, it is predicted on an astrological sense, stating that a calamity is going to happen because of the bad position of the planets. As per the Oxford Dictionary, when you just look onto the term disaster, it is a sudden accident or a natural catastrophe that causes a heavy damage or loss of life. It is a natural catastrophe. That is what being referred as a disaster.